Negative self-talk often feels like something that must be controlled or silenced. The mind pushes back against it, trying to replace harsh thoughts with forced positivity or stronger willpower. Yet the more pressure we apply, the louder the inner noise can become. This creates a quiet exhaustion, a constant swing between self-criticism and trying to think perfectly positive thoughts. Neither side feels truly peaceful because both are rooted in struggle. Buddhist wisdom offers another path known as the middle way. Instead of suppressing the mind or believing every thought it produces, we learn to meet the inner voice with balanced awareness. There is nothing to fix or defeat, only something to understand. What if peace isn't about winning the argument in your mind, but stepping out of it? Many people live caught between two extremes. On one side is harsh self-judgment, the voice that criticizes, compares, and questions your worth. On the other side is forced positivity, the pressure to think only uplifting thoughts, even when they feel disconnected from reality. At first, both approaches seem helpful. Criticism promises improvement, positive thinking promises relief. Yet, when either becomes extreme, the mind enters a constant tug of war. The more we fight negative thoughts, the stronger they often become. Trying to silence them can feel like pushing down waves that keep rising again. Buddhist teachings suggest that resistance itself can deepen suffering. When the mind feels opposed, it reacts by growing louder, as if trying to prove its presence. This is why the pendulum between self-hate and forced affirmations becomes so exhausting. Neither side brings true peace because both rely on struggle. Toxic positivity denies real emotions, while harsh judgment amplifies pain. The mind becomes trapped in an endless cycle, judging, correcting, resisting, repeating. The middle way invites us to notice this pattern without blaming ourselves for it. It is not a personal failure. It is simply how an untrained mind attempts to protect itself. When we begin to see the tug of war clearly, a quiet possibility appears. We realize that peace may not come from choosing one side over the other, but from stepping back entirely, allowing thoughts to exist without turning them into a battle. In Buddhist wisdom, the middle way is often misunderstood. It does not mean ignoring thoughts or becoming emotionally distant. Instead, it describes a state of active neutrality, a balanced presence that neither clings to mental stories nor tries to suppress them. Imagine the mind as a courtroom where every thought demands attention. One voice accuses, another defends, and the judge inside keeps searching for a final verdict. Most people spend their energy trying to win this internal argument. The middle way invites a different response, leaving the courtroom entirely. Rather than proving a thought right or wrong, you step back and notice that the argument itself does not need to continue. This is not avoidance. It is a conscious choice to stop feeding the cycle of judgment. In today's digital world, where constant comparison and information overload amplify inner noise, this teaching becomes even more relevant. Notifications, opinions, and endless scrolling encourage the mind to react quickly and intensely. Practicing the middle way means meeting these experiences with steadiness instead of swinging between extremes. The turning point arrives when we realize that peace does not come from suppressing thoughts or replacing them with forced positivity. It comes from balance, allowing thoughts to arise without turning them into a struggle. When neutrality becomes active awareness, the mind begins to rest. Not because everything becomes quiet, but because nothing is being pushed or pulled. And in that balanced space, a gentler relationship with the inner world begins to form. One of the simplest ways to understand the middle way is through the image of clouds moving across the sky. Thoughts appear, shift, and disappear just like weather patterns. Some are light and passing, others feel heavy or storm-like. But the sky itself, awareness, remains open and unchanged. When we identify completely with our thoughts, it feels as though we are inside the storm. Every idea becomes urgent, every emotion feels permanent. Cloud watching invites a different perspective. Begin by noticing a thought as it arises. Instead of saying, "This is me," gently label it, thinking, worrying, remembering. This simple act of naming reduces the emotional charge, allowing the nervous system to relax. Modern neuroscience supports this practice. Labeling thoughts activates areas of the brain associated with regulation, helping create distance between awareness and reaction. The goal is not to analyze the thought or decide whether it is true. It is simply to observe its movement. As you watch, you may notice how quickly one thought fades and another takes its place. The mind becomes less solid, more fluid. Gradually, the identity shifts from being the thinker to being the observer, the one who notices thoughts without being carried away by them. Gentle noticing becomes the practice. No force, no judgment, just quiet observation. Over time, this approach transforms negative self-talk from something heavy and personal into something temporary and spacious. You begin to see that thoughts do not need to be fought or fixed. They only need to be seen clearly, like clouds passing through a wide, open sky. The inner critic often feels powerful because it speaks in stories. A single thought appears, "I'm not good enough," or "I failed again," and the mind quickly builds a narrative around it. Memories gather, judgments stack together, and what began as a small sensation grows into something heavy and overwhelming. Buddhist wisdom invites us to slow this process down. Instead of engaging with the story, we begin by noticing the raw sensation beneath it. Perhaps it feels like tightness in the chest, a heaviness in the stomach, or a subtle wave of discomfort. This is the sting, the direct experience before the mind adds interpretation. When we separate sensation from story, something important changes. The feeling becomes simpler, less dramatic. It is no longer proof of failure or worthlessness. It is just a passing experience moving through the body. Allowing the sting does not mean agreeing with the critic. It means acknowledging what is present without amplifying it through mental commentary. At first, this may feel unfamiliar. The habit of analyzing or correcting thoughts is strong, but compassionate stillness offers a different path. Instead of responding with judgment, even positive judgment, we rest quietly with what arises. Breathing gently, we let the sensation exist without needing to resolve it immediately. This is where the middle way becomes deeply personal. We are neither rejecting the thought nor believing it completely. Acceptance softens internal friction. The mind no longer wastes energy resisting or arguing. Over time, the inner critic loses its authority, not because it has been defeated, but because it is no longer treated as absolute truth. What remains is a quieter presence, a steady awareness that can hold both discomfort and compassion at the same time. And within that stillness, the narrative begins to dissolve on its own, leaving behind a sense of grounded clarity. The middle way is not meant to exist only in meditation or reflection. It becomes most meaningful when carried into ordinary moments of daily life. While scrolling through social media, notice how quickly comparison arises. A thought appears. "I should be doing more," or "everyone else seems ahead." Instead of reacting, pause and observe the thought as a passing cloud. At work, pressure and deadlines may trigger familiar patterns of self-criticism. Rather than pushing the thoughts away or forcing yourself to think positively, return to the breath and allow awareness to anchor you in the present task. These small shifts root you in reality rather than in mental narratives. Stillness does not mean withdrawing from life or becoming emotionally flat. It is a clarity that allows you to respond rather than react. As awareness deepens, the internal monologue begins to soften. Thoughts still arise, but they lose their urgency. Moments of silence appear between them, small spaces where the mind can rest. Buddhist teachings remind us that stillness is not emptiness. It is a clear, open state where experience is seen without distortion. Through practice, even busy environments become opportunities for presence. The world continues to move quickly, but the mind learns to remain steady within it. And in that quiet stillness, life feels less like a battle against thoughts, and more like a gentle unfolding of each moment as it is. You are not the voice that criticizes you, and you don't need to silence it in order to find peace. The middle way reminds us that thoughts can exist without becoming a battlefield. Each time you notice a thought without reacting, you step gently out of the inner argument. This is not a single moment of change, but an ongoing practice, one breath, one observation, one quiet return to awareness at a time. Today, try noticing just one thought as it arises. Let it pass without judgment or resistance. If this reflection resonated with you, feel free to share your experience in the comments. And if you'd like to continue exploring calm, compassionate wisdom together, you are warmly invited to subscribe and stay in this space. When you stop fighting the voice inside, you may discover the quiet that was waiting behind it.